Okay. So, first of all, Janiah, thank you for literally taking the time out of your busy day. I know we're both
Yeah.
full-time workers. Thank you for
Yes.
taking the time out of your day really to just chat with me and share your story with our listeners. I think it's important as mothers to really know that we're not alone in what we're feeling. And so when we connect a lot of the times, and when we were recently chatting, I realized that, the conversation that we were having was something that like we don't hear often enough. And
Right.
we need to talk about it. We need to, like I said, know that we're not alone. So I'm gonna jump right in, and I just want you to share a little bit about yourself and your motherhood journey. We'll start there.
So I got three littles. They are affectionately referred to as the littles. Big little, middle little, and little little. It's just a term I actually took from a friend who calls her three kids the same thing. So I have a 7-year-old Maddox, I have a 5-year-old Leo, and then I have a 3-year-old Audrey.
Mm.
Um, and so yeah, I've been in the game for less than 10 years. Every
Yes.
day is a big learning curve.
Yes.
Um, Still 7 year after being a mom for 7 years, of course, like still don't feel like I completely have my footing. And not really sure I ever will. Like I said, every day is a learning
Mhm.
curve.
Yeah.
On top of that, I do work full time. I work from home. I am also in school getting my second master's degree. I
Ooh,
know, stupid. Why would
yes.
you do that?
No, girl, me too. Not me too, but I can relate because I did the same. I did the same
Yeah, I'm
thing.
like, why did I do this again? Like, okay, trying to see the bigger picture at the end of the tunnel.
Yes. Yes.
On top of that, trying to, balance kids, work, marriage. I've been married. This month will make 10 years that I've been married.
Wow.
So
Congrats.
thank
Yay.
you. So yeah,
That's a
just
big
kind of
one.
juggling all the things, and in my motherhood journey, I have been um it's been a challenge,
Hmm.
trying to raise these little people who are going to eventually become adults,
Hmm.
raise them and guide them in the way that you believe that they should go, while also still trying to maintain some sort of autonomy within yourself.
Mm.
Like you have
Hmm.
these kids that are depending on you, and this house that's depending on you. If you have a spouse, a partner that's depending on you, and then in the midst of that, you're like, okay, well, where do I fit myself into the picture? And so I think
Yeah.
for moms, it's so common for us to just put ourselves on the back burner.
Hmm.
um
At the end of
and
the
that's where,
list.
yeah, at the very
Mm.
end of the list, and that's where self-care kind of takes a toll, kind of dips. um Trying to rediscover what interests you. Like people will ask me like, oh, what do you like to do for fun? And I can't tell them because I
Yeah.
don't remember. um or I haven't really taken the time to rediscover that part of myself since having kids, because they have taken, center stage.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that led to our conversation that we had, was, do I want another baby?
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
Looking at the fact that my youngest is 3, and I feel
Hmm.
like she went through infancy and just babyhood in just such a quick way, like faster than my sons did.
Yes.
I found
Yeah.
myself kind of like,
Huh.
oh,
Yeah.
I miss having a baby, like
Oh,
despite
yeah.
them running around being loud, acting a complete just utter mess. And you have a lot of days where you want to tear your hair out. But then you look at them and you're like, you guys are getting big like really quickly. And I
Yeah. So
miss
fast.
having that little tiny, like literally, this is about as big as they will be.
Yes.
And you're just
Yeah.
like, oh,
And
I
it's so
miss
fast.
this.
Yeah.
And it goes by so fast. And unfortunately for me, my favorite stage is that newborn stage. So I get like
Yes.
6 weeks of just like, oh,
Yeah. The
and then,
snuggles,
next
the
thing,
scrunch.
yeah. The scrunch is, oh my gosh, I miss it so much. Just that baby smell, them sleeping all the time. I had
Yes.
my postpartum journeys with my kids, everybody was different. My
Hmm.
first one, I had like a routine with him. And
Okay.
I think that's why routine for him today is so like, he's very
Yeah.
particular
He's
about
used to
that
that.
stuff.
Okay.
I had like a routine. We literally did the same exact thing every single day.
Hmm.
My middle baby, that was the one that I had like a touch of baby blues with. So I cried a
Okay.
lot. And he
Yeah.
cries a lot.
Yeah.
He
Oh.
cries a lot. My daughter, though, at the job that I currently have, I
Hmm.
ended up like I wasn't working full time while I was pregnant with her, but I ended up getting hired on full time before I had her, so I was able to get the maternity leave with her.
Yeah.
So I got 16 weeks with her, and it was just the chillest. That was the time that I felt the most
Yeah.
supported. Just
Oh.
like I didn't have to worry about anything, so it was like a very chill, easygoing maternity leave.
Hmm.
She's she's a little wild because she's 3, but
Yeah.
I feel like my postpartum journeys with each kid kind of shape their personalities as to who they are today.
That makes
Um,
sense. Yeah.
and even in
Yeah.
the midst of all of that, I still am like, maybe one more might not kill me. I
Well,
have
let
a
me ask
friend
that.
now who,
Like,
yeah, I have a friend now who has like a 5 month old, and I'm just like,
oh, you can
eh,
see it. Did you
yes.
always, when you and your husband got together, did y'all always think that three was your number? Did you have a number?
Well, you know what's funny about that? We
Hmm.
started dating in high school. We are high school sweethearts. We started dating at 17. A month
Yeah.
into our relationship, we determined that we wanted 4 kids and we had all their names picked out. None of our kids are named that
Oh,
today,
there's a
but
oh, I was gonna say so. There's a
there
name.
we had names picked out for our kids a month into dating. Like I said,
Yeah.
thankfully, none of our kids are named that because we were just, crazy wild in love
Teenagers.
teenagers.
Yeah. I love
Yeah,
it.
but we said we would have 4. We would have 2 boys and we would have 2 girls.
Oh.
Somewhere along the line, we got to 3, and it was just kind of
Hmm.
like it's a little chaotic right now. Like we
Hmm.
don't. And my
I can
husband is
see
like,
that.
well, if we're better, if we're in a better financial situation, I wouldn't mind having a fourth one, but I don't think that's gonna happen. And for
Mm.
me, for me, I'm torn, but there's a grieving stage that I'm kind of going through because I'm like, if Audrey really is my last baby,
Hmm.
that's sad,
Yeah, you
and
have to
I'm
process
in
that.
right. You have to process like you're at an end of an era, right? So there's no more going through the pregnancy. There's no more feeling the kicks and the rolls. There's no
Hmm.
more going through, labor and delivery, which I'm sure a lot of people would be like, okay, yeah, I don't want to go through that anymore. um,
Yeah.
and then there's like that whole bonding experience with your new little person that you're kind of foregoing when you get to that stage. Um, and I think for me personally, I'm kind of in between two worlds where I'm like, yes, I kind of want to like I want another
Mm.
baby. But then I
Hmm.
look at my 3 and I'm like, but you guys are growing up and you guys are reaching, different stages of independence, but independence
Yeah.
nonetheless. And I'm like, do I want to start over with that? So
Mm.
it's a very complicated place
Yeah,
to
the
be in.
duality.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because it's like you miss you miss that part of your womanhood of you being able to
Yes.
create and give
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
and then you're like yeah like I don't why would I start over like everybody's growing up and we're moving along and things are happening people are
Mm.
everybody's progressing why would I start over but then there's that yearning that longing to like I said reclaim that part of our womanhood and be able
Yeah.
to create and give life give birth watch the incredible things that our bodies can do because
Hmm.
wow
Well, yeah, let's talk
um
about it. Let's talk about it.
wow let's
Yeah.
get into it
Oof.
so yeah it's a very strange place to be in
Yes.
and you just have to make a decision like what are you really going to do but I
Mm.
haven't gotten to that part yet I'm still on the
You're
fence
in it.
about it yeah
So,
yeah
because you're in it, I feel like this is a powerful moment for our listeners. Do you have any advice for a woman who's like in your same shoes? Like she's like thinking, okay, maybe this amount of kids, however many they have, is enough, but also maybe I could do one more. What would that look like? That possibility. How are you in like your day to day helping yourself process like those feelings?
So I think one of the things that kind of helps is being around other babies.
Yes. Okay.
Being around my friend's baby kind of
Yeah.
helps a little bit because you get that you can still get like a whiff of that life. Like you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay,
Oh,
this is what it feels like to hold a baby
oh
again,
yeah.
while also still having the choice to be like, okay, I can give this kid back to
This
their
is your
mom
baby.
now.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is your baby. Like I got my dose and I can
Hmm.
leave and be happy with that. But I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, it really is just a matter of like just examining your life, like looking at the
Hmm.
different aspects of your life. Can you actually pull this off? Is it going to
Mm,
be is it going to be feasible with work, with the kids
mm,
that you already have now? Is your partner going to be supportive? You know,
hmm.
those type of things. And that's kind of what I am going through right now myself, like thinking, can I do? Because when I was talking to my husband about it, I was like, we would have to change like a lot of things. Like thankfully the house that we're in now we would be able to stay in, but I'm like, we would have to get a new car. Like,
Yeah.
all these things are going to change. Like, how am I going to be able to get, once the baby is born, like, what is that going to do for school,
Mm,
and kind of looking
hmm.
like with everybody's work. So not just mom's work, but dad's work. Like, does dad get a paternity leave? Unfortunately, my husband does not get paternity
Yeah,
leave.
we didn't either.
Um,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
so
it's interesting.
those are the type of things that you have to examine when you're
Hmm.
thinking, okay, could I do one more? Because it
Hmm.
is so much more than just money. Like obviously, yeah, can I afford another kid? But then you have to think about what kind of mental and emotional space that you're going to be in, because
Yeah.
depending on the number of kids, like that could kind of make or break you.
Hmm.
Especially if they are all close in age. Like it's like a whole Pythagorean theorem level of
Yes. So many different
calculating that you have
personalities
to do.
and
Right. It's
oof.
so many varying factors that play into it. And if you and your partner can sit down and have that conversation and say, okay, what does this look like for us realistically?
Hmm.
Um, then that'll help you get to a decision a little bit faster. I think, I don't know, because it can't just be a matter of, oh, we'll just have another one, we'll work it out. Like, no.
No,
If you're in this
no.
particular
Oh,
mind space where you're not sure, then
yeah.
you
You have
gotta
to
go
think
through the
about it.
whole decision making process.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
So I
that's
want
what
to
I'm.
swing back around because
Yeah.
we're talking about like a lot, like we bring up the logical piece, right? And I think a lot of us, we think of, oh my gosh, okay, I have to get the new car. Do we have space in the house? How is that going to look with schedules and things? But you brought up something that's huge. A lot of people don't think of, can I mentally handle this? Because we talked
Right.
about like postpartum, right? How every single baby that looks different. And even from my own
Right.
experience, it really does look different every single time. Like you don't know how a new baby is going to affect your
Exactly.
mindset. You have no idea. Let's try to maybe support our listeners in a way that if they are thinking more towards the yes, I definitely do want to maybe have another little one. Can you talk about some ways that you were able to support yourself or reach out for support during like the postpartum days, knowing that you don't know what it's going to look like mentally?
So you mean like if I were to have another one, or just kind of like the
Exactly.
past
Like
three
saying you
experiences?
guys are like, yes, we're ready. How can a mother who's in that same situation of, yes, we're ready to have another one, how can you, how would you prepare mentally for having another little one?
So I think, given my own experiences, I think I have to be intentional about what self-care means to me.
Mm,
I think a lot of times
yeah.
we hear the word self-care and we might immediately think, oh, I got to go out and spend money. I got to go get
Mm,
nails done. I got to go to the
yeah.
spa. I got to go out and have a nice lunch. And sometimes a lot of times it doesn't even require that. It is more so about thinking of the things that bring you joy, bring you some sense
Yeah.
of joy, some sense of peace. That could be something as simple as going outside and reading a book, sitting in the sun, letting that sun hit you, feeling the warmth of it can do that
Hmm.
for you. Um, taking a few minutes to just, be alone, be in a space where you can be alone for just a
Yeah.
few minutes. You don't have to be gone for, hours apart. You don't have to lock yourself in the bathroom, though we want to
Yes.
sometimes. Um, whether that's reading your Bible or doing some form of meditation, or talking to people who are going to support and uplift you and feed
Mm.
you the things that you need to be fed, like in your
Hmm.
soul.
Yeah.
I think is important because while I had a different experience with each kid postpartum wise, I one thing remained consistent is that I got caught up in the whirl of postpartum, and
Mm.
it was like to the point where I wasn't aware of anything else that was going around because you're
Yeah,
going
it's a
through,
bubble.
yeah, you're in a like a very isolated bubble, and the only person or people in that bubble is you and that baby. Nobody
Hmm.
else is in that bubble. So
Yeah.
and going through the various changes of, you're going through sleep deprivation. If
Hmm.
you're nurse, I nursed all three of mine, so there was the
Hmm.
breastfeeding thing that I went through, and just trying to feel like a normal person. I would establish those types of things early on, because
Yes.
the more that if you establish it early on, and you practice it regularly, when
Hmm.
that baby comes, you might get knocked off of that routine for a little while, but
Yeah.
you're gonna want to keep going because it's what feels natural to you. You've been doing it for a while.
Yes.
Same thing,
Yeah.
very similar to like exercise. Like if you've been exercising like a certain way before pregnancy, while you're pregnant, you can still do that same thing,
Hmm.
same exact thing, and
Exactly.
you can carry that on into your postpartum journey. Um, because what I want moms to know, like I want them to be self-aware and intentional about it, because what I want, because I didn't have this at the time, like to know if something feels off,
Mm.
you can pivot and make the necessary corrections.
Yeah.
I didn't realize what I was going through after I had my second baby. I didn't understand why I was crying all the time. I
Hmm.
thought that it was just because I didn't know, I didn't think I was going to be able to properly juggle being the mom of a 2 year old and a newborn. And so I
Hmm.
just felt like, how am I going to be able to give everybody the necessary attention that they need? And I cried constantly. And it wasn't until my dad came to visit me one day, and I didn't even say anything to him. He came in the door, sat down on the couch, looked me dead in my face, and said, "What's wrong?" And I just
Mm.
broke down. I was like, "Daddy, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know what's wrong." And he was like,
Yeah.
we gotta figure this out. If you need to talk to somebody, you go talk to somebody, but we gotta figure that
Oh,
out.
I love
And he
that.
asked me, he was like, what can I do to better
Hmm.
support you? And I said, you know
Mm.
what, you being here helps so
Yeah.
much more than I think you will ever understand. And that
Mm.
man visited me every single Sunday for like
Oh,
months
gosh.
while after I had my second baby.
Yeah.
So surrounding yourself with the people that are going to be that level of support for you enough to look at you and see that something is
Yeah.
not
They
quite right and be
know.
like, what do you need from me?
Hmm.
Because I think that's another
Yeah.
thing that we get caught up in as moms. Like we have these babies, people come to visit. Who do they immediately flock to? The
Oh,
baby.
yeah. How's the baby? That
What?
hello?
Yeah.
Like I
Hi.
wasn't
How?
just
Right.
carrying that
Exactly.
child. For,
Exactly. They walk through the door. Let me wash my hands. Where's the baby?
oh my
Even when they
gosh.
call you on the phone, they're like, "Where's the baby?" And
Yeah,
it's
let
like,
me see the
okay, well,
baby. It's like,
right.
well, I'm
It's like
here.
I'm not here. But having
Yeah.
those people that will support you in that way, where yes, they will give the baby attention, but they will also look at you and be like, what do you need? Do you need
Yeah. Like,
something?
are you
Um,
okay?
right, right. Because yeah, we're going through, the mom is going through some stuff too. So having that, I think, is so important. But more than anything, really just kind of establishing that self-care very early on. What makes you happy? You don't have to go to Sephora, though that is helpful. You
Hmm.
can do that sometimes. I'm not saying that you can't.
Yeah.
But just even finding joy in the little things. I have a Cricut machine. I used to craft, just making
Yeah.
random stuff. I sing. I love to sing. So, just things like that that make you feel like, okay, I'm gonna be fine. Like
Yeah. It's gonna be
I'm gonna
okay.
be okay. Right, right.
Yeah.
I have to steady myself and stabilize
Hmm.
myself at this moment. But after I do this thing, I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And I think
Those,
that's super important. No matter how many kids you have, but especially if you have more
yes.
than one,
More than one.
very,
Yes.
very important for you
Yes.
to implement that like ASAP. Like the second you see them two lines on that pregnancy test,
Yeah.
okay,
Start figuring it out.
let me get my
Right?
mindset together
Yes.
today, right now.
Yes.
Right.
I love it. Okay, so I want to and on you sharing just some words of encouragement, which you've already done. Our listeners are going to be like, yes, girl, I'm there with you. Somebody's out there like, I need to figure out what self-care looks like for me. But do you
Yeah.
have any words of encouragement that you would give the mom that's in the very thick, in the trenches right now with baby blues, or that is just struggling on the opposite end of saying, you know what, I can't handle this mentally, and they're about to close like that baby chapter of bringing life into the world.
I think at the end of the day, for those who are going, for the moms that are struggling, you might be in the thick of it with the postpartum, you might be experiencing the baby blues. The one thing that I want to literally, if I could scream this out loud, do not be silent about it.
Mm.
Don't be silent about it. If you feel
Hmm.
some kind of way, reach out. I understand the stigma around it. And I understand that because I went through the same exact thing with my second baby, I felt like if I had called, because there were some people that was like, oh, you need to talk to your doctor, call your OBG, da 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 da.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I was afraid in that moment to do that because I felt like the moment I said, I'm sad and I'm crying all the time, that I would get slapped with like an immediate postpartum
Mm.
depression diagnosis
Yeah. The
and that they would
label.
immediately assume that I want to hurt myself or my kid, which was so not the case either way. I just
Yeah.
emotionally could not contain what was happening to me.
Yeah.
Um, so don't be afraid to reach out. Only you know your body and your mind better than anybody else on this planet. So
Hmm.
if you are feeling something, whether that be an overwhelming sadness, if you feel some sort of rage or anything like that, and you're lashing out at the wrong people, not the baby, but your spouse, you're just taking it out on the wrong people, definitely feel free to reach out. You can reach out to your OB, you can reach out to a friend, a family member,
Hmm.
somebody that you feel like is going to give you the support that you need. But whatever you do, no matter what, you can even word vomit to a stranger on the street, whatever it is, do not stay
Yes.
silent about it. Do not stay silent
Yes.
about it because the more you stay silent about it, the darker it's going to get.
Mm.
And yeah, you don't want that. Trust me, you don't want
Yeah.
that. It's a
Gosh.
very
Yeah.
dark place to be in, even though mine was very temporary. It was the darkest place I had ever been in my life, and I never want to go back to that again. And I thank God every day for my dad being that person, that lifeline for me. And that is something that I want the moms that are experiencing that to do. Like reach out to a lifeline, have somebody, even if join like a little mommy group or somebody, or if you're a person that writes, write it down or just have some sort of outlet to
Yeah.
express that.
Yeah.
Um, anything to not be silent. That's the big picture at the end of the day.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I think for my moms that are in the same boat as me, where you're closing that chapter,
Hmm.
it's helpful to kind of think of the things that what's going to come of this. Like, no, you're not going to have any more babies. Okay,
Yeah.
that's done. But what else do you have to look forward to? You
Hmm.
you get to watch your other kids grow and blossom. You get to take this time to rediscover you as a person, not
Yes.
as a mommy, not as a wife, but as an individual.
Hmm.
What makes me happy? What do I like to do? What are my interests? What are my hobbies? Um, my husband and I, we've been doing this thing not necessarily called date nights, but I like to call them date trips, where we will literally
Yes.
take our
I
kids to my
love it.
mom's. We will hop on a plane and we will leave for 48 hours and we will come right
Yes.
back.
I love seeing
um,
that too.
yes. So that has been something that we have, like, as our kids are growing up and we're realizing, okay, it's more so leaning on okay, we probably won't have another baby.
Hmm.
We're rediscovering ourselves, rediscovering each other,
Hmm.
you know, re-exploring our relationship and our marriage. Because the one thing you don't want is your kids to grow up and they move out of the house and then you're looking at your spouse like, okay, well, who are you? Because I didn't
Yeah.
really know you while our kids
Yeah.
were
You didn't
growing
take the
up.
time to
Right.
keep learning each other.
Right, because it's a continuous process as well as
Hmm.
learning yourself. So, kind of
Hmm.
thinking of it that way, like, yeah, it's a bittersweet phase. Um, but I think knowing that you have this opportunity to kind of rediscover yourself and find new freedoms in this
Yeah.
space is very helpful when you're kind of
Yes.
combating that sadness. Um, so yeah, that's my 2 cents on the matter.
Yes. Thank you. Oh, and I know our listeners are just, yeah, I know a lot of them are like, yes, thank you, Janiah, just for being here, just for being a light and being vulnerable and honest. This is gonna help so many mamas out there I know
I'm
who
so
need to
glad.
hear it.
I'm so happy. I definitely being through this has made me want to do nothing more than just kind of pay it forward to the other moms out there and let
Yes,
give them the things that I didn't necessarily have at that time.
yes,
So I'm
exactly.
very happy to be able to do that.
Thank you so much. Well,
No problem. Thank you.
where can our listeners connect with you if they want to continue just watching your journey or if they feel comfortable reaching out to you and saying like, hey, I really resonated with something that you said, where can they find you?
So I am on Instagram. It is Janiah JANIAH underscore farmer underscore.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook too under the same Janiah Farmer, but Instagram is probably the better thing to get on.
Yes, awesome. I'll make sure I link that in the show notes too so they can just pop
Yay.
on in. All right. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. This was so much fun. I appreciate you for having me.